No, the human ambassador stated. The Freljand's upper eyes blinked in surprise. No. That is correct, the human replied. No. The Freljand leaned back against her seat and regarded the human with all 8 of her eyes. So, you are refusing my request? The human sighed. Yes, I'm refusing your request to attack the Jollet system. And our treaty? The Freljand asked. Our treaty, the human replied, is a mutual defense. The Jollet have not declared war on you. The human leaned forward a little, and you have not offered any ships of your own. But war with the Jollet is imminent, the Freljand said, waving her upper appendages. We must strike first to protect our interests. The human sighed again. Ambassador, when and if the Jollet attack, we will send ships to defend Freljand interests. Until that happens, we will remain neutral. He leaned forward again. In fact, if the Freljand initiate a conflict with the Jollet, we will remain neutral. This is unacceptable, the Freljand spluttered, upper appendages waving wildly. The human waited as she calmed down. After all that we have provided the human species, this is how you respond to our request for aid? All you have provided? The human asked incredulously. And what, pray tell, has the great Freljand Empire provided the human species? Everything we have gained through our efforts with the other species in the Empire. You? He stopped to point at her. You have given us nothing. We, the Freljand replied, pointing at herself, have given you, she snapped out, an appendage to point to the human. Peace. Ah, yes, the human replied, sarcasm creeping into his voice as he answered. The much-vaunted Freljand peace. He pursed his lips for a moment. Do you think we are stupid? The Freljand opened her upper eyes wide in surprise. Stupid? Yes, stupid, the human replied emphatically. I don't understand, the Freljand replied. Then let me explain things to you, the human said. We have been a member of your empire for just over a century now. During that time, we have watched you. And? The Freljand asked defensively. On top of that, we've been talking to the other species in the Empire, the human said. And what have you humans learned? We have learned how the Freljand peace operates, the human replied. One by one, you use the other species in your empire to wage war for you. Then you, he pointed at her again, you Freljans reap the benefits, while the unlucky species you chose for your war spends decades recovering. He paused, then continued. Now you think it is the humans' turn in your cycle of violence. The Freljand was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Is that what you see? That is exactly what we see, the human responded. So you refuse our request because of this? We refuse, the human stated flatly. The Freljand stood and leaned against the table. Then know this, human. The last words said with contempt. It is your turn. And, as you refuse to attack the Jollet, it is you who shall suffer. The human shook his head in disgust. So, you break our treaty? We do, the Freljand replied. Upper eyes slitted in anger. We will exterminate your species from the galaxy. And who are you going to send for that? The Zalians, the Atrix, the Orlan, however many it takes, she sputtered out in her anger. The human sighed again. And how many Freljand? We do not dirty ourselves with such matters, she replied, in a haughty tone. I know, the human replied, and that is your downfall. What do you mean? You, sitting here, aloof in your crystal palaces, have forgotten war, he said. We humans remember. We remember it all too well. He shook his head. We know the cost of war intimately. But you Freljans, he motioned towards her with a hand. You have forgotten the horror, the loss, the bloodshed, the pain, all of these things. To you, war is only an abstract concept. You have forgotten the reality of war as you move other species around like pawns on a chessboard. And now you declare war on us for trying to avoid that which we know so well? He paused to examine the Freljand before him. And what are the terms of this war you so eagerly propose? Terms? The Freljand narrowed her upper eyes with malice. Terms? There are no terms. No salvation. No surrender. She waved an appendage. We will eliminate you humans from the universe. Very well, the human said, as he stood. These are terms we are very familiar with, and we will remember them. Turning, he left the great conference hall in the Freljand Crystal Palace. 18 months later, a human fleet appeared in Freljand space. The ships silently approached the Thralian homeworld, ignoring all communications. Stopping a safe distance away, they began a long-range bombardment of the Thralian planetary defences. As they worked, a group of Thralian warships lifted from the surface. The warships were met with hails of missiles as they broke orbit, reduced to drifting wrecks by the barrage. They never fired a single weapon. At last, with the planetary defences neutralised, the human ships ceased firing and simply hung, silent, in space. Other small fleets from different species began to appear in the system. The humans broke silence. "Thralians," the human admiral broadcast from her command centre, "your fate is upon you." A lone Thralian appeared on the screen. His uniform indicated flag rank. "No, humans," he replied, with what would be a smirk of a human face. "Your fate awaits you. Look," he exclaimed. "Even now our friends gather to remove you from our space." "Friends?" the admiral replied with contempt. "You have no friends." The admiral watched as the other fleets began to form up. They began to advance from the Thralian homeworld, as the stationary human fleet simply observed. She watched the Thralian as he attempted to communicate with the advancing ships. His actions became more and more frantic. Finally, the Thralian turned to the human watching him. "Enough!" he cried. "We surrender. You win." "Win?" the admiral asked. "Surrender?" She shook her head. "We remember the terms you gave." She reached forward to press a stud on the console in front of her. An image of the Thralian ambassador appeared before her, saying, "No salvation, no surrender." The Thralian began blinking his upper eyes rapidly in panic. "You humans are not a barbaric species. Surely you will show mercy." "You are correct," the admiral replied. "We are not barbaric, and unlike you, we are not malicious and cruel." She gave a cold smile. "This is why, when—" She stopped to press another stud. The image of the Thralian ambassador stated, "The Zalians, the Attics, the Orlan, however many it takes." "When," the admiral continued, "you send those others, we were able to show them how you Thralians, safe in your crystal palaces, have been using them over the centuries." The cold smile returned. "Unlike you, they remember war. They remember it quite well, because you have been using them as your private playthings, leaving society after society broken and grieving." She paused to turn off the projection of the Thralian ambassador. "So, when we offered them a chance at peace, a real peace, they jumped at it." During their conversation, a steady stream of small fleets had joined the ones advancing on the Thralian homeworld. Now over 1,000 ships from a multitude of other species began to launch waves of troop carriers towards the surface below. "You must help us! You owe us!" the Thralian cried, fear showing on his features. "No," the admiral replied. "We owe you nothing. All we must do is bear witness as the others repay you for centuries of suffering at your blood-covered appendages." She pressed a stud. The image of the Thralian ambassador reappeared, aloofly saying, "We do not dirty ourselves in such matters." "For too long you have smugly sat in your crystal palaces. Palaces bought with the blood of others," she said. Then her eyes narrowed. "Now the bill comes true." The admiral cut communications as the troop carriers began to land.